The emergency lights of Nexus Prime Station flickered red as Captain Marcus Webb pushed through the panicked crowd. Something was wrong in the lower docks, where the forgotten people went to die. He was not a hero, just a freight hauler trying to make his next fuel payment, but the screaming pulled him forward anyway. In the shadows of Dock 47, he found her. A Felinor noblewoman, her silver fur matted with blood, clutching something small against her chest. Her violet eyes locked onto Marcus with desperate intensity. The Felinor were known across the galaxy as proud warriors, their empire vast and ancient. Humans were considered nothing more than clever scavengers by comparison. "Please," she whispered in broken standard. Her translator was failing. "They poisoned us. Court rivals. My daughter. Crown Princess Lyris. They want her dead." Marcus knelt beside her, his rough hands surprisingly gentle as he checked her wounds. Poison definitely. The green tint spreading across her veins told him everything. She had maybe minutes left. The bundle in her arms stirred. Marcus pulled back the blood-stained cloth and saw a tiny cub, no bigger than an earth house cat. Golden fur, dull and patchy, barely moved with shallow breaths. Her eyes, those same violet eyes, stared at nothing. "Take her," the noblewoman begged. "Hide her. Raise her. They cannot find her." She gripped Marcus's jacket with fading strength. "Promise me, human. You're kind, you protect what you claim. I have seen it. Promise." Marcus Webb was 43 years old. He lived alone on a freight ship held together with spare parts and stubbornness. He had no business taking an alien princess, especially one marked for death by an empire that could crush him like an insect. "I promise," he said. The noblewoman smiled and died. Marcus carried the dying cub back to his ship, the Wandering Star. Station security did not stop him. One dead Felinor noble was not their problem, and humans were always picking up strange cargo. The cub weighed almost nothing in his arms. For 3 days she refused to eat. Marcus tried every nutrient paste recommended for young Felinor. She turned away from all of it, growing weaker. He sat beside her makeshift bed in his cargo hold, watching her fade, and felt something crack inside his chest. "Come on, kid," he muttered. "You did not survive assassination just to starve on my ship." On the 4th day Marcus made chicken soup. Real chicken, expensive and hard to find in space, something he saved for bad days. He had no idea if Felinor could even digest it. He cooled a spoonful and held it near her mouth. The cub's nose twitched. Her eyes focused for the first time. She licked the spoon. "That's my girl," Marcus whispered. She ate slowly, weakly, but she ate. Over the following weeks, Marcus discovered that the Felinor nobles fed their young sterile, scientifically balanced meals. But this little one responded to warmth, to variety, to the smell of real food cooking. She responded to gentle touches and soft words. Things the proud Felinor considered primitive. Marcus named her Lyra, since her full name was too complicated for his human tongue. He made her a bed near the engine room where it stayed warm. He talked to her while he worked, explaining ship repairs in simple terms. Humans were pack animals after all. They needed to bond. Lyra began to recover. Her fur grew lustrous gold. Her eyes brightened with curiosity. She followed Marcus everywhere, learning to climb the ship's corridors, watching him pilot with intense focus. One night, 2 months after he found her, she climbed into his lap while he ate dinner. She was purring, a sound Felinor nobility supposedly did not make. Marcus scratched behind her ears, and she looked up at him with complete trust. "What have I gotten myself into?" he asked the empty ship. Lyra chirped softly and closed her eyes, safe for the first time since the poison touched her mother's lips. Across the galaxy, the Felinor Empire believed their lost princess was dead. They had no idea she was learning to survive from the most stubborn species in known space. 5 years changed everything. Lyra was no longer a dying cub but a young Felinor, sleek and fast, though still smaller than most of her kind. She moved through the Wandering Star with natural grace, but her eyes held something different, a sharpness that came from living on the edges of civilized space. Marcus taught her everything a freight captain needed to know. She could repair a damaged engine with spare parts and wire. She could navigate through asteroid fields without flinching. She knew which stations asked questions and which ones minded their own business. But most importantly, she learned how humans survived in a galaxy that looked down on them. "We are not the strongest," Marcus told her one evening while they ate dinner in the cramped galley. "We are not the fastest or the smartest. But we adapt, Lyra. When the universe says no, we find another way." Lyra absorbed these lessons like a sponge. She watched Marcus negotiate with station masters twice his size, using words instead of claws. She saw him fix impossible problems with creativity and stubborn refusal to quit. She began to understand that humans had something her noble bloodline never taught: practical wisdom earned through struggle. The freight routes took them to dangerous places. Pirates controlled some sectors. Slavers hunted in others. The wandering star was small and unremarkable, which kept them safe most days. But not all days. They were delivering medical supplies to a mining colony on Vesper 7 when the raid happened. 6 pirate ships dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons already firing. The colony had minimal defenses. Families ran for shelter while the few security guards fought back with outdated rifles. Marcus grabbed his weapon and headed for the airlock. "Stay on the ship, Lyra. Lock the doors." "No." Her voice was firm. She was 15 now, almost an adult by Felinor standards. "I am coming with you." They argued for 30 seconds before Marcus gave up. She was too much like him, too stubborn to abandon people who needed help. The fighting was brutal. The pirates were professional killers with military-grade weapons. But the human miners fought like cornered animals, using mining equipment as weapons, setting traps, refusing to surrender even when bleeding. Lyra watched in amazement as a wounded human woman carried 2 children to safety, then returned to the fight with a broken arm. Marcus fought alongside them, his rifle barking orders as much as firing shots. He moved with efficiency, wasting no energy, making every bullet count. This was not the graceful combat of Felinor warriors. This was survival, raw and desperate. A pirate spotted Lyra and charged. She froze for just a second, then her training kicked in. Not the formal combat of her people, but what Marcus had drilled into her during countless practice sessions. She moved low, used her smaller size as advantage, and struck fast. The pirate went down hard. Something awakened inside her. A burning sensation behind her eyes, a sense of every heartbeat around her. Ancient Felinor empresses possessed psionic abilities, gifts that appeared during moments of extreme stress. Lyra felt the pirates before she saw them, sensed their intentions like prey animals broadcasting fear. She moved through the battle like a shadow, combining her natural speed with human tactical thinking. She did not announce herself like a noble warrior. She struck from behind, from above, from angles they never expected. She fought dirty and without mercy. When the pirates finally retreated, the miners stared at her with a mixture of fear and respect. They had never seen a Felinor fight like that, wild, adaptive, terrifying in efficiency. One of the dying pirates recognized her royal markings before he lost consciousness. His eyes went wide with shock. On the wandering star, Marcus cleaned his rifle in silence. Lyra sat across from him, her paws still shaking with adrenaline. "They will come for me now," she said quietly. "That pirate knew what I am." Marcus nodded. "Probably. But you are not that helpless cub anymore, are you?" Lyra looked at her paws, remembering the battle. She had fought. She had survived. She had won. "No," she said. "I am not." Across the galaxy, a message was already spreading through criminal networks. The lost Felinor princess lived, and she had become something unexpected, something dangerous. The assassins arrived 3 weeks later, disguised as diplomatic envoys from the Felinor Empire. They came to Outpost Kepler, a frontier station where Marcus had docked for repairs. 6 warriors in ceremonial armor, their credentials perfect, their smiles polite. They requested an audience with Princess Lyra to escort her home safely. Marcus knew a trap when he saw one. 20 years of freight hauling taught him to read danger in people's eyes. These warriors carried themselves like killers, not diplomats. "We need to run," he told Lyra as they watched the docking bay through security cameras. "No." Lyra's voice was calm, but her eyes burned with something fierce. "I am tired of hiding, Marcus. They killed my mother. They hunted me across the galaxy. If they want me, let them come. Kid, there are 6 trained Felinor warriors out there. You are good, but I am not like them anymore," Lyra interrupted. "You taught me that, remember? Humans do not fight fair. They fight to win." The assassins came at midnight, overriding the wandering star's airlock with military-grade hacking tools. They moved through the darkened corridors with precision, expecting to find a pampered princess cowering in her quarters. Instead, they found a battlefield prepared by human ingenuity. The first warrior triggered a pressure plate that sealed the corridor behind him, separating him from his team. Lyra dropped from the ceiling vent, her combat knife, a human weapon, finding the weak point in his armor before he could react. No ceremonial challenge. No announcement. Just efficiency. The others heard the brief struggle and advanced cautiously. They found tripwires connected to emergency vents that flooded sections with freezing coolant. They found their communication systems jammed by equipment Marcus had rigged from spare parts. They found themselves fighting an enemy who refused to follow the rules of honorable combat. Lyra used every trick Marcus taught her. She cut the lights and used thermal goggles. She made noise in one section while attacking from another. She spoke to them through the intercom, psychological warfare, making them doubt and fear. You came for a princess. But I am not in that cage anymore. 2 more warriors fell to traps and ambushes. The remaining 3 regrouped, their leader furious. Fight with honor, coward. Face us as a true feliner. Marcus, watching from the bridge, saw Lyra pause at that challenge. For a moment, she looked uncertain, torn between the heritage in her blood and the lessons in her heart. Then she hit the intercom button. Honor did not save my mother. Honor will not save me. You want to see what I have become? Come find out. The final confrontation happened in the cargo hold. The 3 assassins entered together, weapons ready. Lyra stood in the center, seemingly exposed. They smiled, thinking they had her. Then Marcus cut the artificial gravity. In 0G, the heavily armored Feliner warriors floundered, their formal training useless. But Lyra had spent 5 years living on a freight ship, bouncing between stations with varying gravity. She moved like water, using the cargo containers as launching points, striking fast and disappearing before they could counter. It was not a glorious battle. It was brutal, desperate, and ugly. But when gravity returned, Lyra stood over the defeated assassins, breathing hard, her fur matted with sweat. The leader, injured but alive, stared at her with horror. What have the humans done to you? They taught me to survive, Lyra said coldly. Take a message back to whoever sent you. Tell them the princess is dead. What lives now is something they cannot control. She let them go, another human lesson. Survivors spread fear better than bodies. News exploded across the Feliner Empire. The lost princess had become something unthinkable, a warrior trained by humans, fighting without honor or tradition. The corrupt regent who ruled declared her corrupted and dangerous. But in the shadows, rebel nobles heard different words. They heard strength. They heard adaptation. They heard hope. A week later, the first rebel ship arrived at Outpost Kepler, its captain kneeling before Lyra with an ancient request. We need an empress. Will you come home? Lyra looked at Marcus, who nodded slowly. You do not have to be what they expect. Just be what they need. She had been a frightened cub, then a freight hauler's daughter. Now she would become something the galaxy had never seen, an empress who fought like a human. Lyra returned to Feliner space with Marcus and 12 human volunteers, former soldiers, engineers, and tacticians who believed in the strange young empress. The rebel nobles who met them at the rendezvous point stared in disbelief at the humans walking beside their princess. Lord Keshtar, the leader of the resistance, bowed formally. Your Highness, we are honored by your return. But surely these humans are not necessary for. They stay, Lyra interrupted, her voice carrying authority that made the old noble flinch. If you want me to take back my throne, you accept my methods. All of them. The nobles were horrified by everything that followed. Lyra refused the ceremonial war palace they prepared. Instead, she set up headquarters in an abandoned factory on the moon of Thres, where she could move quickly and stay hidden. She wore simple combat gear instead of royal armor. She ate with common soldiers instead of dining with nobles. This is not how empresses behave, Lord Keshtar protested. Marcus, standing beside Lyra with a cup of coffee, shrugged. Then maybe that is why you have been losing this war for 3 years. The first strike came within a week. The regent's forces controlled the industrial planet of Vorinen, producing weapons and supplies for his army. Traditional Feliner warfare would demand a massive fleet engagement, hundreds of ships, thousands of warriors, a battle the rebels could not win. Instead, Lyra sent 3 small teams. 2 humans and 4 Feliner in each group. They infiltrated the factories disguised as workers, planted explosives made from common chemicals Marcus taught them to mix, and escaped before anyone noticed. The factories exploded simultaneously at shift change. Maximum chaos, minimum casualties among workers. The regent's generals were confused. Where was the honorable challenge? Where was the formal declaration of battle? This was guerrilla warfare, a concept the rigid Feliner military had never encountered. Lyra struck again and again. Supply convoys disappeared. Communication arrays went dark. Propaganda broadcasts interrupted official channels, showing Lyra speaking directly to common soldiers. You fight for a murderer who killed your rightful empress. I do not blame you, you follow orders. But I offer you a choice. Surrender and join us, or keep fighting for someone who sees you as tools. Thousands of soldiers defected. The regent executed their families as punishment, which only drove more to Lyra's side. The humans taught her something the Feliner never understood. Cruelty created enemies, mercy created allies. Marcus became her chief advisor, much to the nobility's disgust. A human guiding Feliner military strategy? It was unthinkable. But results spoke louder than tradition. Every engagement Lyra fought, she won. Not through superior numbers or technology but through adaptation. One battle became legendary. The Regent's elite guard, 2,000 warriors, cornered Lyra's force of 400 in the valleys of Crenshaw. The nobles begged her to retreat. No, she said simply. We end this here. The humans taught her about combined arms tactics, using different unit types together. Feliner warriors provided speed and close combat. Humans provided range support and tactical coordination. Rebel engineers created improvised weapons. They fought as one integrated force instead of separate units following rigid doctrine. The battle lasted 6 hours. Lyra led from the front, her psionic abilities fully awakened now, sensing enemy movements and coordinating her troops with inhuman precision. But she also fought with human weapons, explosives, ambush tactics, and psychological warfare that broke the enemy's will. When the elite guard finally retreated, they left behind a third of their number. Lyra's forces had lost 40 warriors, but they held the valley. The regent, watching from his throne world, finally understood. This was not the scared cub he tried to poison. This was something new, a Feliner warrior with human adaptability, leading an army that refused to follow the old rules. He sent a message across all channels. 1,000,000 credits for the traitor princess. Dead or alive. Lyra's response broadcast across the empire within the hour. I am coming for my throne. You can surrender now or you can die defending a seat that was never yours. Choose wisely. The common people of the empire heard her words and began to hope. The nobles watched in fear and fascination. Marcus stood beside Lyra as she planned the final assault on the throne world, proud of the daughter he never expected to raise. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you gave a human something to protect. The Battle of Thronesses would be remembered for 1,000 years. The throne world gleamed like a jewel in space, protected by the regent's entire fleet, 300 warships and orbital defense platforms that could shatter moons. Lyra's rebel fleet numbered barely 80 ships, most of them old and patched together with hope and spare parts. The nobles gathered in the command ship's war room, their faces grim. We cannot win this fight, Your Highness, Lord Keshtar said quietly. We should wait, build our strength. No. Lyra studied the tactical display, her mind working through possibilities. Marcus stood beside her, silent but supportive. We end this now. The people are ready. Every day we wait, the regent kills more innocents. But how do we break through those defenses? Marcus leaned forward and pointed at the display. You do not break through. You go around. The plan was insane by Feliner standards. Instead of a direct assault, Lyra's fleet would engage in a feint, drawing the regent's ships away from the planet. Meanwhile, small infiltration teams would land using civilian transports, disguised as refugee ships fleeing the battle. Humans called it a Trojan horse strategy, ancient but effective. The regent's commanders never expected it. They focused on the fleet battle, watching their superior numbers grind down the rebels. They never noticed the 30 civilian ships that landed at spaceports across the capital city, carrying warriors ready to fight. Lyra led the assault on the palace personally with Marcus and 50 of her best fighters, half human, half Feliner. They moved through the city streets as dawn broke, and something unexpected happened. Citizens came out of their homes not to stop them but to cheer. Children threw flowers. Workers blocked roads to slow the regent's guards. They love you, Marcus said, surprised. They love hope, Lyra corrected. I just gave them a reason to believe again. The throne room was empty except for the regent, waiting with his ceremonial blade. He was old but still dangerous, a warrior who had murdered his way to power. Tradition demanded single combat for the throne. This was one rule Lyra would follow. You have shamed your bloodline, the regent snarled. Fighting like a savage, led by humans. You are no true Feliner. Lyra drew her blade, not a ceremonial weapon, but a combat knife Marcus had given her years ago. You're right. I am something better. The fight was quick and brutal. The regent expected formal dueling techniques, measured strikes, honor-bound combat. Instead, Lyra fought like a human, dirty, efficient, exploiting every weakness. She used her smaller size as advantage, her speed enhanced by psionic awareness, her technique honed by years of survival. When the regent fell, it was not to a glorious strike, but to a simple knife thrust under his armor, a killing blow Marcus had taught her on the wandering star so many years ago. Lyra stood over the body and claimed her throne. The coronation shocked the galaxy. Lyra wore simple armor instead of ceremonial robes. She appointed Marcus as Lord Admiral, making a human one of the highest-ranking officials in the Empire. She established military academies where humans taught alongside Feline instructors. She opened diplomatic channels with species the Empire had previously ignored. "We have been arrogant," she told the Galactic Council in her first address. "We believed our ancient ways made us superior. But I learned something from humans. Strength comes from adaptation, from learning, from refusing to quit even when the universe says you cannot win. The Feline Empire will no longer stand alone in pride. We will stand together with all who seek a better future." Some nobles protested. Some left the Empire entirely. But most stayed, watching as their civilization transformed. Human pragmatism mixed with Feline honor created something new and powerful. Years passed. Marcus grew old, his hair white, his hands weathered. One evening, Lyra found him preparing the wandering star for departure. "One last freight run," he said with a smile. "For old time's sake." "I am coming with you," Lyra announced, already wearing her flight jacket. "What about the Empire?" "The Empire can survive without me for a few days. But I need this, just a father and daughter hauling cargo through the stars." They flew together through familiar routes, talking and laughing like they did when she was young. No titles, no ceremonies, just family. The galaxy learned its lesson well. Never underestimate what a human can accomplish when they decide someone is worth protecting. And never assume that being different means being weak. Lyra had been a dying cub. Marcus had been a lonely freight captain. Together they changed the fate of civilizations, proving that sometimes the strongest bonds are forged not by blood or species, but by the simple choice to care.